So many things I need to click to agree to recordings and streams, and we give our agreements to being together in many ways, mostly in spirit. So there is many of us here. I see that there are 38 and gathering more. We're in many continents. I think no one anymore is typing right now, Yael, so I will bring it back to you. And welcome again to everyone.
Thank you, Diana. Thank you to everyone who's joining. Tech is very tricky today. It's always a trickster. So I will try and fix the audio video possibilities, but here in Alaska, when it's springtime and everything is changing, then it's also that way with tech. So apologies, and I think Ia just joined us. She's named Yael ZM. So Michelle, if you can change her name. Sorry, that was the live stream going off. And so what we do in these circles, I will try to put my video. Let me know if you can't hear. But for now, what we do in these circles is that we are asking for a very deep listening. This is a talking circle in the sense that the circle does the talking and we are doing the listening. And before we begin, Michelle, I can't see you. Alma, maybe you can do that. Add Ia, Elder Ia Tahira to the spotlight. Thank you. And so as we are settling into this moment of togetherness, as we are letting go of all the tech stuff and all the other distractions, we can tap into the choice that we have all made. Out of all of the other things you could have been doing, you have chosen to be here with us in this one moment, in this one circle, which is this one choice that we get to make at every single moment out of infinite possibilities. And isn't it miraculous that we have synced into making the same choice, even though we're all experiencing it in different ways? This is what we are asking to tap into as we go into these spaces together. And so the way we do this is by really letting the circle speak through our speakers. So it's a talking circle, but our active action that we're all asking to take is deep listening, as deep as the womb. And the way we do this is based on traditional talking circles as they are called or as they were named by our elder here in Alaska, Rita Blumenstein, who found them and coined that name because she found it exists in many different indigenous cultures and is named many names and has many forms, but share the same guidelines. And we found that when women lead that, it creates an energetic womb. It's a feminine, energetic container. And so this is why we are letting these women of wisdom lead us through this. And what we are asking each and every one of us is to help us maintain these guidelines that I'm going to read. Because the first guideline is that the host needs to read these guidelines, even if everybody knows them by heart. Just like when you're inviting people to a meal at your house, even if everyone knows where the plates are, we're still setting the table. And so this is a talking circle. The circle will do the talking while we all are doing the listening. Even the speakers, when you speak, I am now that my words are coming out, what I'm doing is I'm listening. with the ear at the heart of my heart. If you look at the word heart, you will see an ear there. We're asking for that ear to be open. We're asking to listen with the innocence of a child hearing something for the very first time. Let a story be offered alongside a story truth by truth, like dishes in a potluck. So think before the opinions are made, when you just heard a story about God, about unicorn, about a platypus, about the pyramids, before you had the opinion, is it true, is it not? Just let the story come to you. And maybe the whole story isn't true, but maybe it be some phrase that someone will say, something that you can take. Like if you're in a potluck with your own plate and palette, you can take just these tomatoes or that thing that you like. And you, even if you don't have the entire dish, maybe someone else will. Or even if you don't like something at all, do not push it, for it may be nourishing for someone else. So we're asking to expand into that which may not be usually yours, but allow it in your space, in our space, so we can be together. We're asking to be respectful of yourself, of your other selves, of time and attention that are limited since we're human. We're asking to stay clear and free of agendas, of titles or flags. Listen without trying to lecture someone or teach someone or do some marketing or advising or even arguing or planning or correcting anyone. Just embrace you don't need to embrace anything, but you can just listen and discern which you want to take in and which you do not, without saying about the stuff that you do not, that you don't. Just, this is a very personal process. Respect the fact that for someone else the process might be different. Just like the deer and the lion can experience the very same thing from very different angles in very different ways. Yet they both share the experience and they both have their own truths. And when we ask to share your truth, be it in verbal words or in words that will ask you to or invite you to type at the end in the chat box, please be truthful in the sense that we only speak of what we know to be true through our own lived experiences, not something that we were taught or borrowed or maybe or an assumption. We ask that each one of us speaks for themselves and not for our other selves. Respecting, again, the different perspectives and the truth in each perspective. We ask to share when it is right, when the words are right and the moment is right. So with our elders, if you feel that that is not the moment for you, let me know and we will pass it to someone else and we'll get back to you. And just like the womb where the women who were pregnant may have felt the two hearts or more in them, may have felt nausea and hunger at the same time. And I know I was very confused at first, but my body was like, you're not going crazy, you're just going pregnant. Accept it, expand into it, and something truly new began to happen in me and then outside of me. This is what we are inviting you to experience in the circle, possibly. What happens here and now is very special to this moment. Just like in the womb, there's, the cycle, and it's the same, but it's also different. It's a different ovule, it's a different egg each time, and it has its own journey. And so some of the things that come up here only belong to this circle. Our wisdom keepers know that they're being recorded. What is not recorded is the chat box. And so if something comes up in the chat box, we ask that it stays here. And we ask that if you want to discuss something, even with your friend that might be here, ask their permission. And if you're going to mention something that someone else said or someone else, ask their permission as well. And when we ask, the answer can also be no, which brings us back to being respectful. Respect someone else's no if that is what is true for them. And if anyone wants to offer a change, this is the time to do so. Please write it in the chat box or unmute, ask to unmute, and we will discuss until we reach a consensus. We'll give a few seconds of silence for that. Okay, thank you. And with that, I would like to start our circle that is going to look at ceremony and ritual, intention and prayer, and everything in between. So in order to dive in, we need to open the sacred space. Sabra, are you going to give us the blessing, or Anita? I wasn't there for the discussion.
I am happy to. I think Anita would like me to do it.
Please, thank you.
Well, greetings and aloha to each and every one of you from the island of Kauai, the northernmost inhabited island in the Hawaiian chain. It's a beautiful day here today with blue sky and a nice breeze. And I don't know if you can hear all the birds that are chirping around me, but there are lots of them and it's a little bit loud. But I offer this chant that speaks of the sun that rises in the east. You all, those of you who have been with us before, have heard it already. But it is a chant that I teach to my students to greet the sun, to start the day, and to share with their friends and family. Ea e kalama kahikina, kahiki mai aloha kupuna e. Ku kali ai kali awai kini, waiale ale molale e. Eia e nā puale mo ki hana, kamavahi lua lani ua vehi e. E vehi ke ia aloha e. Aloha ku'one hana ue. Aloha no, aloha e. Mano kalani po, aloha e. Aloha no, aloha e. Mano kalani po, aloha e. So once again, aloha to each and every one of you. May you be safe. May you have loved ones around you. May you have nourishing food. May you have a happy spirit. Aloha.
Mahalo, thank you so much, Sabra. And as we're looking at rituals, I think I saw that you had a big ritual with some students that you were telling us before that you were working towards. And so when it's time for you to share, we would love to hear about that. But as we are starting this circle, I would like Anita, because you might be leaving us a bit early. So if you can start our sharing today.
Yes, and thank you, Sabra Koka. That was beautiful. It just centers me. I love the question, and there were several questions there, but the question about what's between intention, prayer, ceremony, ritual, and what is ceremony and ritual, how do they differ or not, things like that. And then what's my favorite ceremony that I can share about. So I want to say as Stecken and Toltec, it's used interchangeably, the ceremony and the ritual. However, ritual is shorter, is not as much preparation and everything, because in all of these things, there's the preparing, cleansing yourself to be there in your heart. And so I want to say that, but and that's mostly what I follow. That's what my grandmother taught me, and that's what other elders from my nation have said. But I've also gotten honored to be getting training for some time, for some decades, from the Lakota. And Norbert Elmer Running is someone who's just dear to me. He's on the other side of the camp. He's been there for quite a while now. And he would say very different. And as he taught me, and I kind of understand it this way. Like some people say ritual, and they'll say, I have a morning ritual. I get up, brush my teeth, then I go run, and that's wonderful. You could call that a ritual. The difference on this is that spirit, we're always inviting in all of these realms, spirit, other dimensions. And so there's an intention to it. There's an open heart and everything. And what I learned from my Lakota friends and elders is that there's there are a lot of protocols. Let me just say that. Lots of protocols of what happens for different ceremonies and rituals. And those are very important. It's like, oh, well, we don't have to do, no, these are very important because just like the ceremonies ritual, actually with my family too, it's not any different in terms of they're all sacred and important. But they're really important in a bigger way. So let me just go a little bit further. I want to talk about all of these. Intention. And on any of these things, the prayer, the ceremony, the ritual, there should be intention for it. And however, what I was also taught, and I see it in elder circles all the time, intention is not sufficient. Now, some will disagree with me. I understand that. You have to come with intention, but we also have to right there consider impact and not just come with good intentions and then the impact is all over the place. So it's about, is it of service? And if it's not, then you pause. And so it's not like out on the mainstream was like, oh, any decision is better than none, or going forward is better than none. And that's not true. So many times when I'm in circle and we're considering doing a ceremony, we'll pause. And it may be another meeting or two before we even do the ceremony, because it's time is not linear in any of this process. And I'm assuming some of you have, if not all of you, have experienced that. Even when you're in prayer, it's like you're no longer just on this plane. You're no longer only on earth. You're in others. And that's true in ceremony too, whether the ceremony is 10 minutes, 15 minutes, or whether it's days, 5 days, 6 days, 7 days. So I want to add that piece that for me and for what I've been taught and what I practice is that intention and impact are right there together. And that's really important. Prayer is a whole nother thing. And so when I was brought up, it was definitely very much indigenous training, including the Osage, because I would go to see my, I guess it was second aunt, who had married an Osage man. Prayer, it's so hard to put some of this in words, so I'm sorry if I'm looking for the right word. Prayer is in religion, in Catholicism, which I was also brought up, prayer was always asking for something. I pray that this will happen. I want this. It's always about something that I would get. When I'm with my family, my nations, and many others I'm with, that's not prayer. Prayer is, I don't mean to be judgmental, but prayer really is about acknowledgement of the original instructions that varies to varying degrees of tribes around the world. But it was to recognize and honor, and having listened with the softest part of our ears and our expanding hearts to what we are told and then passed down of what particular ceremony or ritual, what it is that that needs to happen. And a lot of the forgetting of that, I think, is part of the difficulty that we're having now, of the connection, the real strong connection to Mother Earth, and even to the great mystery. I will never say I know the great mystery, but when I'm in some of these ceremonies and rituals, it's palpable. It's so present, and I'm understanding how I'm a part, humbly a small part, but a part of this incredible hoop of life. So I want to say that in a way, what my mom said to me, she said, just consider, yes, you learned this part of the family, and consider that you can carry it over. So you don't have to be asking for things as you've been taught somewhere else. My mother always did this. She said, if you want to get good grades or be seen as really bright by somebody else, you go ahead and answer how they want you to answer, but you come home and tell the truth. But now I don't do that. I actually tell the truth out here too. It's really wise for a woman with a 7th grade education and just incredible wisdom. So I don't want to ramble too long because I want to stay within the time so we can hear from others. So all of these intention, impact, prayer, these are a part of cleansing too, to be in a place so that we can do ceremony and ritual. And so for me, in the morning, I'll just give you an example. A ritual, I call it a ritual, but sometimes it ends up being a ceremony. All right, so the ritual that I do is I get up before the earth has turned so that the sun is coming up, and I go outside and I put my feet on the ground. It doesn't matter whether there's snow or not. And I receive the seeds of life. And it's all gratitude. I'm just being there. And sometimes it's really wonderful and feel like I'm there from my heart because I can't even tell you what I'm thinking about. So it's a meditative state too, in receiving these seeds, and they're of different frequencies, shapes, and I'm just being grateful because the sun is always there, and the sun doesn't discriminate about who gets light and who doesn't. And so that for me is just a humble remembering that I have so much to be grateful for. And so I call that a ritual. But sometimes I'll also bring out my pipe and I'll invite a few friends to come, and it becomes even more than that. And I ask them to do preparation because I'm already doing preparation almost all the time. It tells you how much I need it. So I'm usually preparing all the time to meet this other dimension, the spiritual, the great mystery, my ancestors who are so, ever present. So the original instruction varies from place to place, and that becomes very important and what ritual and ceremony we do. The last piece before I pass it is, you asked, it's a hard question. So what's one of your most impactful, or I forget how you asked it, ceremony. Probably if I looked at it stronger, I would have understood a little more, but it was like, what is one? It's really hard, but why I asked Sabra to speak first, I want to talk about a recent one, and then mention very quickly another one. But a year or two ago, I can't even remember time, we were together, a number of us elders in Wisdom Weaver, and we were doing ceremony every morning and every evening. And it was over the whole week. And more people came, and we had water, life-giving water, and people would put their intentions in it, their hands. And in that last day of this week, my sisters were busy with important work, sharing what needed to be shared so it could go out and TEDx and things. And so I was asked at the last second, like, we have these hundreds of people here, or can you do something? So I said yes. And so I went into ceremony. Things that seem unreal are real. And so I'll just tell you a little piece because there were so many things there. But at the end of this, we asked the children, we helped them carry the big container of water, the intentions to go back into the ocean. So they go and they travel far. We do it with smoke in my tribe, and then the women were behind the children and then the men. So I was up there. I was so filled up with the beauty and the power in this island. And my sisters, elders, that I literally left the ground. And one of the women, I was sharing this at another place, and she goes, yes, I grabbed you. And I said, I felt like somebody was grabbing me. She said, yes, you started lifting off the ground when the children were going and putting the water in. And I could see that you were like, and so she grabbed me so that I could be there. Let me say, I said thank you because I felt like I was holding space for everybody. So I don't know about going up in the sky and stuff. But at the same time, that feeling, if not literally, is what happens in ceremony, because you're there humbly with spirit. So I thank my Hawaiian family so much. The other one I need to say, and a lot of ceremonies and things you can't say much about. They're very private, powerful, and we just don't share them. One day maybe we will. I don't know. But this one is my elder that I was talking about, Elmer Running. And he was one of the first people who taught me about the tobacco ties and the prayers that go in those. And we spent days before making thousands of ties. And the intention of this was for our own cleansing, to cleanse, but also to be there and honored by the ancestors to come. And in that ceremony, everything was blackened out. And all the ties were sitting in the center. And let me just say, that's when I saw in a group, I actually saw spirit and felt spirit. And they did too. Because up to then I was mostly just getting that on my own. But it was so real. And then when we were able to turn on the lights, we saw that the bundles were in front of 3 women. And I thought, well, one of them makes sense. She's got cancer, so maybe the ancestors are helping her. The other 2, we never knew. We never knew. And we didn't need to know. Although I want to say that in the next 3 to 5 years, both of those women got cancer. And both of them talk about they were healed. They knew they weren't going, they had things to do here because the ancestors put those prayers in front of them for a reason. So that's what I have to share for now. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Elder Anita. And you just gave you a word for what I do every morning. My ritual is I go barefoot. It's Alaska. I'm like, I don't care if it's snow or not. I need to feel my mother earth. And then my ritual is, the first thing I put into my mouth when I was a baby was my mother's milk. I always take a bit of snow or some edible plant when there's no snow. And this is the first thing that I'm taking in. Just like I did with my biological mother. And so to hear you, we've never spoken about this. You did mention that you're receiving the light every morning, but I didn't know you were going barefoot. So this to me is so precious. Thank you so much. And as we're talking about the great mystery, I would ask Diana to take us into the great mystery. I was supposed to do it before Anita, but yeah, I guess this egg today wants to travel in a different way. So Diana, can you take us to connect with our wombs inside us, around us, beyond us. And yeah, let's
Thank
feel
you.
some of what Anita was describing so
Thank
beautifully.
you. Thank you, Anita, for bringing us intention and impact. And we will continue to take that around. So, kindling the light inside of us and in front of us. Taking a moment to feel the flame within our heart, within our womb. Placing a hand on the womb, a hand on the heart. If you don't have a womb in your body, place both hands on your heart. If your womb was surgically removed, you still have an energetic womb, an etheric womb, a pulse there of the universe. The womb is the most ceremonial part of our body. It's a space that's enclosed for transformation. All the organs are themselves doing their work, but the womb in itself is a space, a sacred space, a space where ceremony can take place, where transformation can begin and grow and be birthed, be it flesh and blood or intention. A place where intention is transformed from a seed idea to something that's ready to be born into the world. Let's take a moment to feel what is wanting to be transformed within our womb space, our heart space, within this enclosure where magic happens. Within this enclosure, hidden from the eye, hidden from the light, like a seed in the Mother Earth, we put our intention for transformation to grow. Nourished by our thoughts, by our feelings, by our intentions, by spirit. Feeling spirit taking form within our womb from an intention to actuality. And being open to that journey that comes, the journey of pregnancy of the soul, pregnancy of intention, which may take as long as it takes, which may form and transform many times over, which may be born or not. And we're here to bear witness, to hold space, to be present. Letting our womb know that even as in a moment we will shift our attention elsewhere, we are in tune inwardly to this journey of transformation that secretly grows within us, inviting our heart to be part of this journey, and letting it go in this moment to continue to unfold in its own space and time, while we, keeping our eyes closed, begin to return to this consciousness of this moment, letting our hands either stay where they are or come to our side or our lap as they wish. And envisioning is with our eyes closed, the circle we are part of worldwide, the intentions that are woven together here with us. And gradually the environment, the surrounding of the room where we each sit, feeling our sits bones on the chair, our feet on the ground, our spine reaching the sky. Remembering colors and shapes and objects around us. Wiggling our toes and our fingers to be more and more present in our body in this moment. When we feel fully here, fully present, allowing our eyes to gently open. Welcome back.
Toda rabba, Diana. Thank you so much. As you were speaking, I really felt the transformation as a possibility, and I thought, yeah, when I got pregnant, I think, and then gave birth, of course, I think, as one of my quiet elders who is here with us says, our bodies are ceremonial. Our bodies know rituals, whether we know it or not. And only I had milk in places that wasn't milk before. There was life where life was to ask our elder, who is what
We can't hear you, Yael. Maybe if you turn your
one
camera
of
off.
these people that I feel transformed.
Am I being called?
Elder
No.
Ia, can you share with us? Can you hear me?
Yeah, and I couldn't hear whether you was
Okay.
calling. It seemed like something is going on. You going in and out. Is it me? Am I clear? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Was there any a specific invitation? Because I didn't hear anything. Was
Diana,
there
can you please speak? I think my internet is very shaky.
I think Yael was inviting you to speak. I didn't hear a lot of it, but I think she was inviting you to speak your wisdom, what comes through you in relation to ceremony, ritual, prayer, anything that is now wants to be spoken through you, Elder Ia.
Thank you. Well, one of the things that I'm always cautious to generalize ritual and ceremony, because what I learned in my journey on this earth, that when we look at indigenous cultures around the world, and specifically when we look at African continent, and the many rituals that occur there, they differ across different tribes and different settings. I'm initiated in the Ifa, which is known as Yoruba practices, and I'm initiated in the Daga people's practice, where I learned shamanic ceremony. And that would contrast, if I was doing both and looking at them, they would look very differently, but they are the same and have the same intentions. to me, and so we are taught differently about ceremony in terms of language and culture. And I really, as we move to this evolutionary process and embodying the wholeness of creation, I think we need to we who are embodying and giving birth, I think we need to be really cautious about our language, because what I learned in language coming out of my ancestry, that language is like a code. It has within it the vibrations and the frequency. And when we forget those laws, we are creating that which we don't want to see in the world if we're not careful. So those are the first premises that I'm taught. Be mindful of your words, child. Be mindful of what you say, child. Because when someone comes and they leave you, they take in a prayer. That's ceremony, if you want. So the next thing I'm aware of, I knew ceremony and ritual when there was no words for it, because in my growing up years, there was a danger for Black people to even speak of rituals or look like they knew anything other than Christianity. But my great-grandmothers, my two great-grandmothers, one, my paternal grandmother, she remembered where she comes from in her African, but she had her ceremonial tables up. And in the morning, she would go through her rituals, go outside. She would make offerings to the earth. She would make offerings to a tree. She had a special ceremonial places, her guides. She would go meet with them. She would go talk to her plants. That was part of her ritual. My other great grandmother would, before she speak to you, she went out and she greeted the four directions and the earth and the heavens. It wasn't words, it was what we was observing. So when I came into seek me as the seeker and the traveler, and asked the questions about many things, I met those things that I observed in those grandmothers. I met them when I went out into the world, and then found the language to express them. And so one of the things, one ritual that I call is when I was going through my shamanic training, and we were about to do a ritual ceremony. We did all the preparation, because in the Daga people study, in the shamanic study, the preparation is the most important thing. Setting the table and the preparation. So we look at all of the influences, who's what. We look at the spirit water as the spirit people. The spirit people show up and do the preparation for the water people. The fire people show up and do the fire people. And each one of us have an orchestrated piece of ceremony and bringing ritual to life. And when we understand that ancient way of setting in ritual, that ritual is more powerful than war itself. But it's like we forgot those really powerful vibrational and frequencies, how to work with the energetic field. So when we set intention to step into that field, we are opening the way for something magical to happen on earth. So we don't try to give it words, we set the table. We bring all the elemental forces, and we invite and we bring in those important pieces, our ancestors being the first, because we know that our ancestors have walked to the other side. No matter what has happened on this side, we know now they are capable of supporting us with whatever we want to go for. So we don't judge, we just step into that force of energy and know that then they're not going to interfere. We know that spirit, what we call spirit, does not interfere, because we really pulling in creation herself and all of her pieces. And we know that creation don't make mistakes. And so when we invite in, because we know if things have fallen apart, the best orchestrator of bringing it together is creation herself. But over time, what we're learning now is that we have lost the capacity to set in that pure activation of what we call ritual. The ritual and ceremony play there are two roles that's happening. There's a need for ceremony. Sometimes when someone is crossing over, that's a ceremony. And also it may include ritual depending on what we need to move from the surface of earth or to release. So it has many, when someone dies or is making their transition, there's 4 days of ceremony. 4 days actual ceremony. And because we're looking at all the players. So we play everything in the African cosmology and teaching is polarity. We address both male and female, and we stand between those two worlds. And what I look at is that the power, I find still the power of that. And I want to go back. I had my first experience in the power when I was 17 years old, and a minister was delivering a sermon. And it was something about the way that he chanted. And when he chanted, I just went straight up in the air. And that's one of the things that I learned. When the drums move, that you move. When ceremony, sometimes she takes you up. And so we move with ceremony and we become a part of it. So the next time I witnessed it is in my initiation. Ceremony, there was drums was going, and all of a sudden I'm going to the bembe, which is another form of ceremony and ritual, and they play that. It's a celebration. And all of a sudden I'm hanging up in the air, and all I'm hearing is my elders down on the ground, and my Babalawo is saying, don't touch her, don't touch her. Yemaya came and get her daughter, because they can name the spirit who showed up to take you home. And taking you home is reconnecting you with your soul agreement. The soul agreement. The home is your soul. You're coming home to that soul to walk that path that you agreed to walk before you came to earth. So the whole thing in some way is to connect us back. Like at birth, we know that if a child comes in, there's enough elders who remember sitting at the table, and they can name who's coming in. And they say, oh, this is what do you bring in? At 7 months in pregnancy, we have, in that ceremony, we have a birth here, and we inquire, who's coming? What are you coming for? And sometimes it might be a return ancestor that's coming through. But these are things that we have forgotten. But now the veils are so thin that we really can begin, like even our womb space. What came through when you was leading the opening is that she said, if we could give birth to a child, we can give birth for what we asked them for once we understand how to realign the potency of the womb space. Because the womb space opens the potency, the darkness, the primordial energy of life birth. We chose to carry life in our womb. The man comes along, he waters the seed. He don't make life. Women, it depends on what story you create. So she carries the seed already. So we know that we can begin to water the seed again through the work that we do and produce what we want on earth, because now we're coming back together in that collective knowing. And if enough of our brothers and brethrens and husbands we can infuse, and that they holding that container like they were supposed to do, the protected container, then we women can go home and hold that womb ceremonially and change directions on this earth. But we have to be in agreement with ourselves and creation herself, and know that creation don't make mistakes. She doesn't make mistakes. We just be clear about what we calling for creation and collectively. And this is the most powerful time, according to my guides and my elders. This is the most powerful time in creation. We are aligned to do this. Right now, we are aligned to start the wheel moving upward. We may not see it in our lifetime, but we, the women, we are the elders at this threshold who are the ancestors who can walk through that door awake. That's what I'm getting. So I hope that was, it was a mixture of ceremony, intention. Because the other thing, let me say intention, when we do an intention, we look at that dot like you threw something in the ocean and it guided you in terms of what you was going to do. And you stayed with that. So it activate what you sent out through the prayer, through that ceremony holding. Because once you made the intention and set it in motion, there's nothing, just hold it. Hold it. That's all we have to do. And so be.
Thank you so much, Elder Ia. I will not challenge my internet, so Sabra, can you please speak whatever comes through you?
All right, very good. Oh my golly. As I listened to Anita and Deanna and Ia and all of you with your thoughts and your feelings about the importance of ritual and ceremony, all these memories come back. It's wonderful. And especially for those of you who were here on Kauai, how many years ago was it, Yale, that you all came here to Kauai? Has it only been 2 years? Oh my goodness. Because
2.5.
Oh my gosh. When I think of the incredible, beautiful ceremonies and ritual that we had here, the magic of those moments was actually captured by your wonderful video team of all these people, these many young people who you didn't even know they were recording. They were so gentle and quiet about how they were recording. And even from above us, looking down on our circle, at the river mouth, at the beach, chanting, singing, celebrating life. It's just wonderful, wonderful memories come back of that event. And I hope that we are able to have another time someplace where we can all gather again to celebrate life and love. And it's so funny, Elder Ia, listening to you talking about, when you talk, I think of my grandmother who would wake up early in the morning and she would go outside and water her plants and she'd talk to them. She'd talk to all of her plants. And I remember asking my mother, who's grandma talking to so early in the morning? Who's out there? Well, there is no one out there. And mother would say, she's talking to the plants. And I thought, okay. So I grew up thinking that was normal. But not everybody has a grandmother who talks to the plants, talks to the forest, talks to the birds. So, so I do that too. Then my neighbors will ask me, who are you talking to? So, oh, I'm just, watering the plants and making sure they're okay and have enough food and treating them well so that they can bloom again, just like you do when you raise children. You speak to them with love, you feed them with food, and you feed them with activities and memories that will help them to grow. But it is so wonderful to see all of you from around the world and to think of you and to wish you peace and happiness wherever you are in the world. I do hope that this spirit of love and peace will prevail, because it's actually very difficult for me to watch the news. I actually used to watch the news all the time, and now I cannot bring myself to do it because it saddens me. And to me, war is not the answer. Peace and love and sharing is the answer. And we must do that. We must do that. So blessings to each and every one of you, wherever you go. Sending you much aloha today and always. Thank you so much, Yale, for setting this up and allowing us to share, to bring together, and to share our aloha, our love, and our spirit of generosity and sharing to everyone here and to all of your families and your communities. Aloha.
Mahalo and aloha, Kunusebra. Again, a lot is coming in, but I will just let the words, as Ia reminded us, let the words speak for themselves, because I'm sure all of it that's been shared is raising so many more for each of us listening with the softest part of our hearts, as Anita calls it. And Celine, can you share, please, about ritual, ceremony, prayer, intention, impact, the relationship between all of these?
Aloha, Pachashai, Iliatexe, Wiracocha, protect us and always guide us. I am very proud to be here 1 month again. My heart is kind of full of emotions now, and is beating very hard by saying that we all are women around the world, and we are sharing just one spirit. And the spirit that I want to share with you is the spirit of our grandmothers, and honor them. Probably was a grandmother of mine that allows me to be here, and I want to show gratitude. And this is what we do every time that we do rituals. Is rituals, Quechua has a word similar to gratitude. So to show gratitude, we really go into the ritual with a spirit, with the spirit of women, because I received this tradition of rituals through the feminine line. As the previous speakers, I saw my grandmothers doing rituals that I learned just by saying and feeling that this is so important, and wherever the women does is very important, because it keeps the knowledge that cannot be right, cannot be record, cannot be in the past, I mean. So in the past, I have been receiving from my grandmothers this ability to perform rituals. And rituals are a little spaces where we can touch soul, we can touch spirit. And for us, I guess all the indigenous around the world, spirit is always first. And recognizing that spirit is always first, we must honor first the spirit. And when we come to this, ceremony, I came with my spirit to you. You are saying a face, you are saying hair, but what are you really saying is my spirit. My spirit is talking to you. My spirit is touching yours, because we used to put first spirit in front of anything else, even considering diseases. First, an spirit got sick, got disbalanced, got unbalanced first, and then the person got sick. So imagine it's the same now. You are saying a body, you are saying a couple of eyes of mine, but this is not what are you saying. What are you saying is my spirit talking about rituals. So the rituals is for call spirits to, to make a meeting of spirits. Is we need to keep these spirits alive, because it's what we do have. In certain communities here in Peru, we have nothing. We have just spirits. And we are very grateful for that. We do not complain because poverty. I never did. I am very proud and I am very grateful to have an spirit. And the person who gave me this spirit was my grandmother, a feminine being. And I am transmitting this to other women for whom the spirit is first, like for me. So I am showing to you first my spirit, and my spirit is full of glory, is full of gratitude, is full of a spirit of feminine beings, of feminine gratitude, and also is full of hope today. The spirit is the only thing that can release that we have so much to be grateful about. And the rituals for us is first show gratitude, enhance with the spirit part of us, and realize that everything you see, everything you touch, everything you talk with is spirit. Then it comes the material things, the body, the soul, the emotions, personality, behavior. But first is the spirit. So I will bring this knowledge from my grandmothers to here. First, we are a spirit. And first, we met in a spirit. And thank you so much for meeting my spirit. And thank you so much for saying and touching my spirit in these circles. Thank you so much.
Tupananchiskama. Thank you, Celine, for bringing yours and letting it touch ours so beautifully.
Thank you.
And again, I'm not going to challenge my internet. So, Muna, can you please share?
Hi, everyone. Thank you. Thank you for your deep and wise words, and just noticing how I came and how my heart is opening wider and just like really taking in every word and flying with you with the drums and with the prayers. And it's just amazing. Thank you so much for this. Really stepping on the snow and talking to the plants along with everyone here. So I really deeply thank you for this. And listening to you, I am thinking about how lucky it is to grow up in a surrounding that ceremony is part of your being, part of your nature, part of what you do. Because for me, it has not been like this. I grew up in Palestinian, I'm Palestinian, so I grew up in a Palestinian home, and the place where you do, like the place where you do pray is religious prayer. And it's normally, you know how that is. I believe each and every one of you knows how that is. It's like you have something that you do and then you just do it like a parrot and not really, don't really completely understand, even though my grandmother used to do something, but it's not, I would not call it as deep as ritual or ceremony. So I had to relearn it. I had to relearn how to do ceremony. And that came to me in the beginning on the path of the Native Americans, just opened up to me here. So that was like really amazing opening for me. And as time went through, I would start having my own personal ceremonies every once in a while. And just the fascinating thing about it is because I have been doing it for, I guess, over 15 years now, my own personal ceremonies, then all I need to do is create a circle and step in. And it's just right there. Spirit is with me. Like I feel like the presence with me and the guidance with me and the listening with me. And I listen in a different way. I know that I listen in a different way, and it has been changing. I learned that when I do something like this, I cannot really completely plan, because I want something and then spirit is telling me something completely different, and I just have to sit there and listen. And I'm like, all right, okay. Here I am. First thing is, okay, here I am. My name is Muna. I'm here again. Thank you for being with me. And boom, and then something happens. And I believe that just to be like as simple as talking about what ceremony is for me, I think that it is communion with spirit. It's doing something not only on a human basis, but calling in spirit to be in guidance and to be here throughout whatever needs to pass through. There was a time where I had a women's circle, Palestinian women's circle, where we would meet every new moon and do ceremony together, and that was really fruitful and beautiful. But we had to invent ourselves each time, and it was very precise and accurate. And women were like, "Whoa, what is this?" You know. So it's all for us. It's a very much of a learning process, but it's incredible how clear and accompanied, and like I feel like the directions and the instructions are just here the moment that you're willing to step in and do it. So yeah, I really hope for the day that there would be more people doing this in Arabic, because I really miss that. I really miss that. And I want to say that there was one time, I didn't plan to say this, but it's coming right now. One time I was sitting, and we were sitting in a circle preparing the candles for a ceremony with a whole group of people. And then the land, I just like looked at the land, and I heard something that was really clear. And the land, just like the spirits of the land, told me that they miss hearing prayer in Arabic. It hasn't been told in Arabic for a long time. They said, we still remember, but we need you to re-speak it. And your people don't remember. And and that was, okay, this is my prayer. So this is my prayer right now. This is like what I tie my candle for. And I've been tying my candle, and then my daughter came running, and she just sat in my lap. She was like, I don't know, maybe 7 or 8. And she started crying. I was like, oh, it's like, it's not time for you now. Like, why are you crying now? And then I was like, okay, I'm a mom. So I opened up. I was like, what are you crying for? And she said, I don't know. I feel like I remember something. I can't remember what I'm supposed to remember, but I know that I forgot something. And that was like, oh my God, here we are. Here we are. So yeah, this is how it works through me here, for me here. And the one thing that I thought I want to say about prayer is, for me, I often, when I come to pray, and this has been a long journey for me, there's a question in me like, how can I be really precise about my prayer? Like, spirit works in mysterious ways. Some things we do not really understand, and things happen because they happen. Like, who am I to ask for the diversion of it? And so what I do is, normally I just tap in and ask to be the instrument of whatever needs to connect between heaven and earth, and ask to be just bringing through what that needs to happen. And this, I think, is the most accurate prayer that can be done, at least on my side. And when it should not happen, then it's clear that it should not happen. So I just let it go. And so that's ceremony, and that's prayer. And it's beautiful. I'm really grateful for that. Really, really grateful. And do I have 1 more minute? Yeah, to share one more thing. Yeah. And that's for rituals. I have developed this habit of, when I go to water sources in nature, normally with water, I just sit and I present myself, and I ask who's here, and I open up to hear who's there. And so I found incredible things. Like some water sources are amazing, some water sources are really guarded, and I found that natural sources are there, and they're all like all the natural spirits, they're always happy, and then there are all the humanoid kind of like spirits there that are often not happy. And by the way, just to, I don't know, like Sebrai said something about the news here in this land. So I found that the water sources inside here where we live together, they're calmer than the ones in the West Bank. And the West Bank, I've every time been almost literally kicked out. They're like, go away, you know, like, all right. But there was one time that this happened. I was sitting there and there was like, just go away. And I started explaining, I'm here to listen. I'm not here to control anything. And I'm talking, you know. And then this Jewish settler guy came because they feel like it's their place. And he came and is like looking at me and like, who's she talking to? You know? And he started searching the place, looking for the person who's hiding behind the trees. And so it was really funny. And I sat there, just waited for him to finish. I was like, all right, okay. And then it was very clear that I'm not going to be able to continue doing my prayer in that place because, you know, it just invaded my space and he started talking on his cell phone. So I was like, thank you so much. Some other time I'll be here or not, if I'm welcomed. And I think it's really a lot about just surrendering and letting go of our agenda and listening to what is. So this is my piece of sharing, and thank you. Thank you for allowing me to say my piece.
Shukran, dear. Sorry. And speaking of the Holy Land, I'm crying like your daughter. Diana, can you share your perspective?
Yeah.
Whatever comes through you.
Thank you, Muna and Celine and Anita and Antri Sabra and Iya. When you were speaking, Muna, a line of Mahmoud Darwish, the Palestinian poet, came to mind, and I'm not sure if I'm quoting it correctly, but it's a line that says, "Let me be a candle in the dark." And I'm remembering, Anita, you started with the place of prayer, that prayer is often, we ask, give me. So the difference, I think, for me is the difference between make it light to let me be a candle in the dark. Rather than give me, let me serve. And I'm thinking about prayer and ceremony and ritual, and that like Muna spoke of and like Celine spoke of, that this is a place of spirit. This is a place that spirit infuses every moment of our waking life and sleeping life, and spirit is imbued in every moment. And I'm thinking it's like the consciousness of the breath versus the unconsciousness of the breath. We breathe all the time. Most of the time, we're not even conscious about it. So spirit is around us all the time. Most of the time, we're not conscious about it. And then there's the moment of the same breath, but all of a sudden, we're conscious of it. It's the same spirit, but all of a sudden, we are in a rendezvous with her. In Hebrew, it's a she. And that ritual and ceremony is our willingness to make room for her, to make room for spirit, to make a time for us to really meet, to really be present, to really listen, as opposed to all the time when spirit is present and we are not listening, we're not available, we're not present, we're not encountering it. And if I were to think of what we have in common in ceremony, in ritual, and in spirit, in prayer, it's really that it's a rendezvous with spirit that we're willing to show up for. And then listen, like Muna said, then listen and seek what is spoken to us, what wants to be communicated, what wants to be said, what wants to be met, and just to be there to meet it. And to be willing to not have our own agenda but to be open to the agenda that wants to be, agenda would not be a good word here, to be open to the message that wants to come and meet us, and to be there to meet it. Thank you.
No, bye, Diana. How beautiful. And it reminds me, I think you said it in one of our private conversations, that ritual is like prayer in action or something like that. And that sense of let me be a candle rather than give me light is just so accurate. Thank you so much. And it brings me to tell everyone that in 3 days, we are going to have at the same time, right, Diana and Ia? We're going to have an online ritual that we are offering to welcome the unwelcomed. It was in the last newsletter, and we will put in the chat box if you want to join the newsletter. And it's the first time we're trying this, so we'll see how it goes. It will be led by Diana and Ia. And yeah, we would love for you to join us. And I just want to say, you were talking about the gathering of wisdom weavers of the world before my time. You were mentioning that film, it was made before my time. I think you were preparing. Oh, that's where I fell in love with him. I will put it in the chat box as well. And we will have a few quiet minutes for sharing from our audience, from our listeners, from our co-creators by listening. Please put in the chat box whatever you want to offer. Thank you, everyone. And Elder Ia, can you give us the closing blessing, please?
I felt like that was so quick. Okay, I'm gonna give you guys a song. Is that okay? I don't know why this song is from my ancestry. It's coming up. It's an old spiritual song, but it's like a chant. So anyway, let's just put our hands on our heart and we go like we started. Deep in my heart, I can feel the stirring of life. Deep in my heart, I feel the stir of life. Oh, oh. I feel her as she dropped right down into your womb space. Ooh, ooh. Feel her as she moved, like almost spiraling back up from the womb into the heart. Ooh, as she dropping back down into the earth. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Deep in my heart, I feel your light stirring. Ooh, 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 ooh. So you find yourself going down to the river. Are you being called to go to the river? Are you being called to go to the water space? Feel that stirring of the umbilical fluid, stirring and stirring as she reaches deep into the soil to bring us again in right relationship with creation, and know that we are the mothers. We're the sacred mothers and the sacred wombs that's being invited to to give life again on earth, and so it be. Ashe, ashe.
Ashe, thank you so much, everyone, for this co-creation. Every encounter is a co-creation. So everyone present, the way you listen enabled for our wisdom keepers to open in the way that they did. And for me, this was very enriching, and I've learned a lot. I'm going to relook at it to learn more. And if you want to join us to see former recordings, you can go to the website. We'll put it again in the chat box. If you feel nourished and want and can, as they nourish all of us, we'll put a donation link. It is not a mandatory thing. It's just if you can. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you very much. Toda rabah.
Thank you, Deacon.
Thank you, Yael, and thank for our tech support, Alma and Michelle. Appreciate that a lot.
Michelle, can we stop the recording and the YouTube live streaming?